Now we come to role-based access control. So this is also called as the non-discretionary access control, where a set of rules determines how subjects and objects interact. So users are assigned different roles. So if we come back to the fictitious organization example, yeah. So here in this fictitious organization, we had Alice. Now here, Alice has the role of accountant. So now, instead of initially what was happening in discretionary access control, Alice personally was able to access the financial database. Now in role-based access control, what is going to happen is, any person who has the role of an accountant, who is working in the role of an accountant, whether it be Alice or whether it be Bob or Mary or Fred, whoever has the role of accountant will be able to access the financial database. So it is the accountant role that is able to access the financial database and not any individual person. So an advantage of role-based access control model is, if there's a real use case where if there are internal transfers happening in your organization. So if one person gets transferred from one department to the other. In this example, if you consider, if Alice for some reason gets transferred from the accounts department to the IT department, then Alice would now have the role of an IT personnel. Okay, so now the IT personnel role would give permissions to Alice to perform the tasks. The IT personnel role will allow Alice to perform all the tasks which are needed to be performed in an IT department. So once Alice gets transferred to the IT department, she no longer is in the role of an accountant. So she will not be able to perform any operations that an accountant needs to perform in general. Okay. So the example is described by this statement. Okay, briefly. So users are assigned a role and the roles dictate access to a resource rather than the user. So this scales better than the discretionary access control model. And why role-based access control model is advantageous over discretionary access control model is because we don't need to continuously change the access control labels or permissions per user. You don't have to change individual permissions. Rather, you just need to modify a certain role. You need to modify the permissions applied to a role. Okay, and whoever a new resource or a new person comes into an organization, you can just assign him that role and he will automatically be given permissions or privileges which are related to that role. Okay, nor do you have to remember what permissions to set on a new user. Like, you don't have to personalize permissions for any individual user. You can just modify the permissions on a particular role and just assign that role to a new user. So just make them a certain role. Now this model can be simulated with the help of groups in Windows or Linux. Okay. So again, coming to the fictitious example, fictitious organization example. So here again we have Alice. She was earlier serving as an accountant, but now she has been transferred to the IT department. So now she will have the new role of IT personnel, and the previous role of accountant would not be applicable to Alice. Okay, so Alice would now not have access to the financial database. Now Alice would have access to the external web server and the email server because she is serving in the role of an IT personnel. Similarly, suppose if Fred is or if suppose another user, say William joins this organization as an accountant. That means William has the role of an accountant. So now the accountant role will help him to access the financial database, because the accountant role has the permissions to access the financial database and not William himself has the permission. Okay, it's the accountant role and not William who has the permission to access financial database. Okay. Now this is also suitable for an organization where a lot of attrition takes place, like a lot of employees leave the organization. Okay, so that is going to be covered in the next slide. See, roles are engineered based on principle of least privileged. Means a role provides you access to the minimum resources or minimum permissions you need to perform your job. Okay, that is what is meant by principle of least privileges. You'll only have that many amount of privileges which allow you to perform your task. Okay, a role contains the minimum amount of permissions to instantiate or use an object. A user is assigned to a role that allows him or her to perform only what is required for that role. So if accountant role requires access to the financial database, so the accountant role will be given access to the financial database and not any other resource. Okay. So no single role is given more permission than the same role for another user. So it's not going to happen that two accountants or two people who have the role of an accountant are going to have different levels of permissions. So no two accountants will have different permissions. So if there is an accountant one, he is able to access the financial database but not the email server, and it's not going to happen that accountant 2 is going to be able to access the financial as well as the email server. Okay, if both people have the same role of an accountant, then both will be able to access only one resource, which is the financial database. Again, when you use role-based access control model, if you need centralized access, if you don't need the mandatory access control, and if you have high turnover, that means a lot of people are leaving your organization. So if a lot of people leave your organization, it becomes very tedious for you to assign permissions and privileges to individual users. So now what you can do is you can hire people in bulk, you can group those people and give them a particular role, okay, and that role is going to have a certain set of permissions, okay, and those users will be able to work according to those permissions only. That was about the role-based access control model. Now we have the task-based access control model, which is a type of access control model that grants permissions to users based on the tasks that they need to perform. Okay, so instead of the roles. Now it is the task which is going to give you permissions. Okay. In task-based access control, the access rights are tied to specific tasks. So what are permissions you have are dependent on the tasks which you are going to perform, or functions rather than roles or user identities. Now this approach allows for more granular control over access privileges and can be particularly useful in environments where users have varied roles or responsibilities. So for an organization that has less number of people, or startup maybe, so a startup has less number of employees, so an employee may be required to perform more than one type of tasks. So whatever task he needs to perform, he is going to have permissions requisite for that task. Okay. So if a person is performing a task of writing a file, then that person is going to have only the right permission and not another permission for sharing that file with some other user. Or if another employee has a task for reviewing a document, then that person will only have read access or read privilege and not write access or edit access. Okay. So whatever permissions that an employee has is dependent on the task which he is supposed to perform. So in a task-based access control model, the first important step is to identify the task which each user needs to perform. So the first step is to identify the task or operations that users need to perform within the system. So these tasks can range from basic actions like reading or writing data, the example that I gave you, to more complex operations like approving transactions or modifying system configurations. The second element here which is necessary is permission assignment. So once the different tasks have been allocated to different people, then the permissions which are requisite for that task need to be given to the proper people. Okay. So once tasks are identified, appropriate permissions are assigned to users or groups based on the tasks they are authorized to perform. So again, if someone is authorized to perform, if someone is supposed to perform a writing task, then he will only have writing privileges. If someone is supposed to perform a reading task, then he will have only read privileges and no other ones. Permissions can be assigned at a granular level, specifying exactly what actions a user is allowed to take within the system. Now, access enforcement. The system enforces access control policies based on the permissions associated with each task. Pretty self-explanatory. When a user attempts to perform a task, the system checks whether they have the necessary permissions to do so. So again, in this model also there is going to be an authorization database which is going to have details about which permission is required for which task, and the reference monitor is going to refer the authorization database and it is going to cross check that data with each subject. Okay. And if there is a mapping between a subject and a task, then whatever permissions are required for performing that task, those same permissions will be assigned to that subject. Okay. So if a subject has the necessary permissions to perform some task, then the task is executed, otherwise the access to that person is denied to perform that task. Fourth point is dynamic adaptation. So again, this is task dependent, so that means your permissions or your privileges change with the tasks you need to perform. So TBAC models can be dynamic, allowing permissions to be adjusted based on changing user roles or responsibilities. So I just need to change your task in order to change your permission levels. This flexibility ensures that users have the access they need to perform their tasks effectively without granting unnecessary privileges. So again, the principle of least privileges acting over here. Next is auditability. So it is very easy to maintain an audit trail in TBAC models. So TBAC models often include auditing capabilities to track user activities and access right changes. Auditing helps organizations monitor access patterns, detect unauthorized activities, so we can identify if a person performed any action which that person was not supposed to perform. Okay, and maintain compliance with regulatory requirements. Overall, task-based access control provides a flexible and scalable approach to access management, enabling organizations to effectively balance security requirements with operational needs. But there is a caveat with implementing TBAC model, which is that a very careful planning is required to assign privileges for specific tasks. So it requires careful planning and ongoing maintenance to ensure that access policies remain aligned with organizational goals and security best practices. Okay. So this is all about access control models. I'll see you in the next lecture. Till then, thank you.